The year is 1618. Sir Walter Raleigh bids a tearful goodbye to his wife, who clings to him desperately. In a short while he will be led to the old palace yard at the Palace of Westminster, where his head will be chopped off before a throng of people. Sir Raleigh was an English statesman, soldier, writer and explorer, one of the most notable figures of the Elizabethan era. He played a leading part in English colonisation of North America, and he was a favourite of the beloved Queen. What fatal chain of events led to his decapitation? Sir Walter Raleigh was born in Devon in 1554. His family was very well connected. His great-aunt had been Elizabeth I's governess while a princess. His brother and half-brother were both members of Parliament. Raleigh grew up in a family of devout Protestants who were persecuted during the brief reign of Catholic Mary I. His father had to hide in a tower to avoid execution. As a result, from an early age, Walter developed a hatred of Catholicism that would last for the rest of his life. Raleigh went to France in 1569 to fight alongside the Huguenots, who were French Protestants from the Reformed tradition in the religious civil war. In 1572, he was registered as an undergraduate at Oriel College, Oxford, but he left a year later without a degree. Between 1579 and 1583, Raleigh took part in the suppression of the Desmond rebellions in Ireland. He was present at the siege of Smeric, where he led the party that beheaded some 600 Spanish and Italian soldiers. His outspoken criticism of the way English policy was being implemented in Ireland brought him to the attention of Queen Elizabeth. He was invited to court, where he soon made an excellent impression on the Queen with his good looks and gallantry. Legend has it that Raleigh once threw his cloak across a puddle so that the Queen could walk across without getting her feet wet. By 1582, he had become the monarch's favourite, and he began to acquire lucrative monopolies, properties and influential positions. His Irish service was rewarded by 40,000 acres of estate in Munster. In 1583, the Queen secured him the lease of part of Durham House in the Strand, London. He had a monopoly of wine licences in 1583 and a monopoly on the export of broadcloth in 1585. He became Warden of the Cornish Tin Mines, Lieutenant of Cornwall, and Vice Admiral of Devon and Cornwall. He frequently sat as a Member of Parliament. The Queen knighted him in 1585, and Raleigh rose to the rank of Captain of her Guard 2 years later. Always ambitious, Raleigh was also motivated by his hatred of Spain and support for Protestantism. Once he gained influence at court, he promoted the idea of creating English colonies in North America to challenge Spanish colonial policy. The Queen wanted to keep her favourite Walter near her, so he was not allowed to travel overseas. However, Raleigh organised voyages to North America that led to his sponsorship of an English colony on Roanoke Island in North Carolina, which he named Virginia after his adored Virgin Queen Elizabeth I. After a short while in America, the expedition returned to England to obtain more supplies for the colony, planning to return in a year. Unfortunately for the colonists of Roanoke, Queen Elizabeth ordered all vessels to remain at port for potential use against the Spanish Armada. After England's 1588 victory over the Spanish Armada, the ships were given permission to sail. When the supply ships arrived in Roanoke 3 years later than planned, the colonists had disappeared. The only clue to their fate was the word Croton carved into a tree trunk. The colony had since been known as the Lost Colony, and the fate of the 121 colonists remain unknown to this day. It was Sir Walter Raleigh who is credited with the introduction of tobacco to England in 1586, brought from his Virginia expedition. He reportedly smoked a pipe of tobacco in front of Queen Elizabeth I, who was intrigued by the plant and its effects. One legend tells of how Sir Raleigh's servant, seeing him smoke a pipe for the first time, threw water over him, fearing him to be on fire. In 1592, Raleigh acquired the manor of Sherborne in Dorset. He wanted to settle and found a family. His marriage to Elizabeth Throckmorton, one of the Queen's ladies-in-waiting, had been kept a secret from the jealous Queen. In 1592, The birth of a son betrayed him, and he and his wife were both imprisoned in the Tower of London. Sadly, the baby died after an outbreak of the plague, and the Queen, sorry for the grieving mother, soon released her. Raleigh was released from prison in August 1592 to manage the recently returned expedition and attack on the Spanish coast. The fleet, originally led by Raleigh, had captured an incredibly rich prize, a merchant ship named Madre de Deus. The rich cargo aboard the carrack, which at the time equalled nearly half the size of the Kingdom of England's royal annual revenue, was subject to mass theft when it arrived in England, followed by quarrels over the shares of the prize. Raleigh was sent to organise and divide the spoils of the ship. He and his wife remained devoted to each other. They had 2 more sons, Walter in 1593 and Carew in 1605. During this period, at a dinner party, Raleigh had a heated discussion about religion with Reverend Ralph Ironsides. The argument later gave rise to charges of atheism against Raleigh, though the charges were dismissed. In a bid to restore his influence with the Queen, Raleigh had set up an expedition to find the fabled city of gold known as El Dorado, following one of the many old maps which indicated the putative existence of the city. In 1595, he led the expedition to what is now Venezuela in South America. Raleigh first captured the Spanish settlement on the colony of Trinidad, along with the governor, who was also looking for the city. Raleigh and the English held the place and used it as a base for their exploration. Despite the presence of a Spanish force shadowing him, Raleigh successfully navigated the Orinoco River and inlets, penetrating some 400 miles into the Guiana highlands. Spanish documents and stories told by Indians had convinced him of the existence of El Dorado. No gold or lost city was ever found. However, Raleigh returned to England and subsequently exaggerated his account in his book named The Discovery of Guiana. In 1596, Raleigh took part in the capture of the Spanish city of Cadiz, where he was wounded. He also served as the rear admiral of the island voyage to the Azores in 1597. On his return from the Azores, Raleigh helped England defend itself against the major threat of the Third Spanish Armada during the autumn of 1597. The Armada was dispersed in the Channel and later was devastated by a storm off Ireland. Royal favour with Queen Elizabeth had been restored by this time, but his good fortune did not last. The Queen died in 1603. The accession in England of the King of Scotland was marked by the discovery of 2 conspiracies known respectively as the main and bye plots. The object of the bye plot was to capture the person of the new king and compel him to make concessions to the Romanists. The object of the main plot was apparently to substitute the king with his cousin. Neither could have ever had the remotest chance of success, and the real interest of the main plot lies within the fact that Walter Raleigh's rivals succeeded condemning him as a participator in it. Raleigh was reprieved at the last moment and was shut up for 12 years in the Tower, where he passed his time writing a history of the world, making chemical experiments and dreaming of El Dorado. In 1617, Raleigh was pardoned by the king and granted permission to conduct a second expedition to Venezuela in search of El Dorado. During the expedition, a detachment of Raleigh's men under the command of his longtime friend Lawrence Keynes attacked the Spanish outpost of Santo Tomé de Guiana on the Orinoco River in violation of peace treaties with Spain and against Raleigh's orders. In the initial attack on the settlement, Raleigh's son Walter was fatally shot. Keynes informed Raleigh of his son's death and begged for forgiveness, but did not receive it and at once committed suicide. A condition of Raleigh's pardon was avoidance of any hostility against Spanish colonies or shipping. On Raleigh's return to England, an outraged Spanish ambassador demanded that Raleigh's death be reinstated by the king, who had little choice but to do so. His imprisonment was short. On the 29th of October 1618, he was beheaded outside the Palace of Westminster. Sir Walter Raleigh faced his fate with brave resolution, and supposedly told his executioner, when waiting for the axe to fall, "Strike, man, strike." Raleigh's head was embalmed and presented to his wife in a red silk velvet bag.